Multiverse is the collective term for all of the parallel universes in a given total reality, which, in the case of fiction, is usually the entire world portrayed by its creator. This creator could be one person, like Terry Pratchett, whose Discworld novels occasionally utilize multiverses. Or it could be an enormous company, like the two current world leaders in multiverse storytelling, Marvel and DC. There's often a practical reason behind this. In superhero comics, for instance, we're getting close to having a century of continuity. With so many different people working on so many comics and storylines for so long, and with storylines that often conflict with each other, multiverses emerge as a natural way to unify all those different ideas relatively easily. But multiverses don't just exist in fiction, nor do they only exist to reconcile problems in fictional worlds. They might be a way to reconcile problems in our actual universe too. Problems like our current lack of a unified grand theory of everything. In theoretical physics, multiverses and similar ideas, like planes of existence that are imperceivable to humans, emerge as a result of theories of everything. A theory of everything is a hypothetical framework that would encompass all of physics, reconciling general relativity and quantum mechanics. Both general relativity and quantum mechanics have been validated, but are ultimately incompatible at certain scales. The most famous potential theory of everything is arguably string theory. String theory is a little notorious for its weirdness and complexity, postulating that particles are not single objects, but long one-dimensional strings. Because they only exist in one dimension versus humans who exist across 4 dimensions, they're deceptively simple and appear to us like single points. String theory has a major problem, however. A problem exemplified by M-theory, an even weirder version of string theory. M-theory unifies the 5 different versions of string theory, all called superstring theories, into one. But it's inelegant and requires 11 dimensions to work. Again, as far as we know, we've only got 4 dimensions in our universe. 3 spatial, length, width, and depth, and 1 temporal, time itself. While 4 or 5 spatial dimensions are ideas we can theorize about to an extent, when we're trying to reach 11 of them, the challenge becomes incomprehensible. It's not just string theory that leads to such ideas either. Even cosmic inflation, something we know for a fact is happening, could be a potential driving force behind the generation of parallel universes too. The Big Bang may have been that powerful. This endless inflation could even be creating various bubble universes, which all expand in their own way as well, with everything coming from the initial singularity of the Big Bang. But it's not likely we could ever reach one of these other bubbles. And perhaps the reason it's taking so long to come up with a theory of everything is that we're not currently accounting for these different universes, separate or related to our own as they may be. In fiction, however, ideas like string theory aren't usually taken into account when it comes to the multiverse. The multiverse simply exists, often as a solution to inconsistent stories or temporal paradoxes. Rather than having time travel create a paradox, a parallel universe is created to account for any differences. Getting back to an original universe or timeline can pose a lot of problems, however. In reality, it's also theorized that every single decision everybody makes could spawn a parallel universe in itself, with almost no differences except for that one thing, even if it does trigger a butterfly effect that could eventually, potentially lead to huge changes overall. In this way, there are possibly infinite multiverses within infinite possibilities, both in fiction and reality. Sometimes in fiction, parallel universes don't even need to abide by the same laws of physics, and the same could again be true in reality. In real life, there are no omniscient fiction authors who know exactly how things will go and how events lead on from each other. You'd have to have the knowledge of a god to be able to see the butterfly effect in action in the real world, for example, beyond a few small instances of one thing leading to another in your life. We just don't know how situations could change based on people making different decisions. There's also the fact that fictional multiverses are again often tied up with time travel. In the real world, most of the evidence still suggests that backwards time travel is impossible because you'd have to break the speed of light to manage it. So a mechanism to create a parallel universe to account for a temporal paradox might not actually exist. In the here and now, there's also no real reason why a new universe would need to be made to account for different choices, even massive choices that have huge repercussions on our species. And even in an existing multiverse, the different universes might not have any real connection to each other at all. Maybe they're not even infinite, and there's a set number of universes out there, none of which interact with each other. We just don't know. and that's one of the biggest problems with multiverse theories. But in fiction, they're almost always clearly linked. Those problems are sidestepped. In reality, and like many areas of hypothetical cosmology, string theory included, it's interesting to research, but there are plenty of naysayers. Still, once black holes were believed by some to be far too weird to actually exist, and those people were proven wrong, so perhaps the multiverse will go the same way. But if the multiverse and parallel universes do exist, could we, the humans of real life, travel between them like characters of sci-fi? There have arguably been hints towards yes. In 2020, bizarre stories surfaced in many outlets claiming that NASA had discovered evidence of a, quote, parallel universe where time runs backwards. What NASA was actually talking about was the strange behavior of neutrinos in the Antarctic ice sheet. Nonetheless, the idea of this baffling mirror world took off in some circles. But still, if such a universe did exist, traveling to and from it would probably be out of the question. How would a human from one universe survive in a universe where the passage of time was reversed? It's possible that if you tried to cross into such a place, you'd perish immediately. Your body just isn't built to travel backwards through time, and likely neither would the bodies of anyone living in the mirror world be built to travel forwards. The same could then be true for other universes in general, even ones that don't have such drastic differences. Maybe it's simply impossible to get between them, if they do exist in reality, as you'd have to build a ship somehow capable of traversing boundaries that facilitate the literal breaking down of reality. And really, we know even less about how to do that than we do about most other hypothetical concepts, like time machines or traveling through wormholes. And finally, in fact and not fiction, many theories suggest that parallel universes would be built from exotic matter instead of our own normal baryonic matter. And this could again mean that we're physically incompatible with these worlds. And still there are other problems too, such as even if we were able to reach a parallel universe, and even if it didn't harm us, then what if that parallel world doesn't have any intelligent species of its own? What if the intelligent species are unreasonably far away from whatever route we took into their world? We've already not been able to find other examples of intelligent life in just our own universe. So what really are the chances that we'd be able to find it in a different one? Unless a parallel version of humanity is trying to break through into our world at the exact same time, which actually has happened in fiction, it just doesn't seem all that likely that we'd have much luck, in fact. But what's your verdict? Is the multiverse more science fiction, or could it yet be true reality? Ultimately, as far as we know, there's no real way to prove the existence of the multiverse at present. And if our universe and another ever did collide, then there's a chance that neither would survive the encounter. For us to verify its existence, another world would need to be observed. And it remains one of the most theoretical areas of modern physics.